Good morning. How are you guys doing? Do you have your coffee or whatever it is that you're drinking? It is 10, just after 10 here in New York City. Mm. And we have a lot going on. We're putting the show together this morning. We realized, man, we have a lot. So just a couple of minutes late, but I'm so happy that you can join us this morning. Craziness going on, a lot of things going on. And so I'm so happy that you are here. And so buckle up, settle in, because I want to tell you about everything that's happening. So I appreciate you joining us. I'm going to take you to some places live because we're waiting on, it's my sweaty shower. We're waiting on to see what happens here in New York City for two things. And then we're going to take you down to Florida. So actually, there's a lot of breaking news here. All right. I feel like this is cable news, but I don't really mean it to be that way because there's a lot. First of all, we're going to tell you that Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, is speaking now at the United Nations and speaking live at the United Nations. So there he is. And what's surprising to me is that there aren't a lot of people in the crowd. And he is speaking, he's being defiant, he's talking about Hamas must go, but not really speaking about his role in all of this. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let's listen in just for a second, and then we'll see what, well, I'll check it out somewhere else.
Murder women for not covering their hair and hang gays in public squares, some progressives. According to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, Iran funds and fuels many of the protesters against Israel. Who knows? Maybe some of the protesters.
So just what I said. He's talking about everything that's going on. He's talking about Iran. He's talking about Hamas, but not at all talking about his role. And I don't mean Israel. I don't mean the people there, but not at all talking about that. So that's interesting. We'll catch you up on that. And as you know, he is integral to politics here because he's playing very heavy in the election. So we'll take him down, and I'll take you to some other places. But that's Benjamin Netanyahu, who is speaking live at the United Nations, monitoring his remarks to see if he actually talks about maybe a two-state solution, maybe some sort of ceasefire. That's what people would actually like to hear. But as I said, what was most interesting to me in all of this is that Benjamin Netanyahu, while he is speaking right now, is not really addressing any of those things that I just mentioned, basically just talking about the other folks there. Okay, and then we are also going to take you to the courthouse in New York City, and there is a live picture. Eric Adams is going to be there this morning, and should be there. You see all the press lined up. Look at that mic on the end, the one that says 1010. It kind of looks like the DL mic from the Don Lemon show, right? Same colors. But anyways, that's where Eric Adams, he entered the courtroom a little bit earlier. We'll show you that, the courthouse. And so he is really fighting for his political life and fighting to stay out of jail. A whole lot of trouble, because we told you, you know, that he is facing all kinds of charges, including bribery, right? And also just receiving improper benefits from people with whom he was involved with in government and who could actually help out the city. And then there's a sad story that's happening down in Florida. I don't know if you guys paid attention to what's happening in Florida. There's a hurricane there. It's Helene, and it is really battering the southeast coast of Florida. The west coast is fine. Southeast coast, not so good. Category 4 storm made landfall in Florida at 11:10 p.m. And boy, it's really, really hitting. So we'll take you there, and I want to show you. Why don't I show you just a little bit? This was the governor, Ron DeSantis of Florida. You guys love him. Speaking out just a little while ago and giving an update.
Major General John Haas, the Adjutant General of the Florida National Guard. As you know, Hurricane Helene made landfall last night as a Category 4 hurricane at Deckle Beach in Taylor County. Maximum sustained winds were 140 miles per hour.
Okay, we'll pause right there. 140-mile-an-hour winds are really, really, really bad. Okay, so let's get to the show and discuss everything that's going on. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you like. I got a lot of headroom here. Wow. Make sure you like and hit the thumbs up. But that's okay. We don't really care. So anyway, this is our hot topics, and I wanted it to be. I want this show to be a little bit more sort of not politics, not heavy news, but that's what's in the zeitgeist right now. That's what's happening today. So at least 6 people, as I said, dead as a result of Hurricane Helene's onslaught of the America's southeast. It's hitting, I said, the southeast coast of Florida, but then it's going up the coast. Category 4, made landfall 11 p.m. 11:10 p.m. last night. Also, we have developments on Eric Adams, a corruption case. New York mayor arrived in federal courthouse just a little over an hour ago in order to be arraigned. The mayor being arraigned, imagine that. Related to, we have these news reports of Andrew Cuomo finalizing plans to jump into a crowded race for New York mayor. How do you feel about that? Andrew Cuomo, as I said, is still beloved here by a lot of people. There is some opposition that we're going to tell you about as well. But look, people always get upset when I try to give you what is happening. They think it's my opinion, and it's not. That Andrew Cuomo is liked here, and I think would stand a really good chance of becoming mayor. Of course, everything that's happened, the scandal that pushed him out of office, the sort of Me Too scandal that he has denied over and over and over again. And by the way, has not been adjudicated in the court. But there's some opposition. There's opposition to women. One of them, one who worked for him, who's saying, why would we go from a mayor who is embroiled in political scandal to a governor who had to leave office from political scandal, a mayor who might, have to leave office. And then again, as I said, Benjamin Netanyahu. So New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted on 5 federal charges related to bribery, wire fraud, conspiracy, and soliciting campaign contributions from foreign nationals. That's according to a 57-page indictment unsealed late this morning. The indictment alleges illegal action stretching back to 2014 from when he was the Brooklyn borough president. And here's the quote. He said, for nearly a decade, Adams sought and accepted improper, valuable benefits such as luxury international travel, including from wealthy foreign business people and at least one Turkish government official seeking to gain influence over him, the indictment reads. Eric Adams walking into court this morning. Check it out. So inner court, pretty quiet there. Reporters were, of course, they're yelling questions at him. He did not answer. Yelling questions at him, and he did not answer. Are you guilty? Why did you cover up the cell phone? Why didn't you give authorities your cell phone? A bunch of things. Are you going to resign is the big issue. Why did you say that the Department of Justice is after you? What would they be after? Because you may have criticized someone on something. It doesn't seem like if you are a Democrat and you're in office, I'm just saying, innocent to proven guilty, don't get me wrong. But if you're a Democrat who is in office and you're holding one of the major offices in the biggest city, the major city in the country, then why would a Democratic Department of Justice, or at least a Department of Justice led by a Democrat, the Biden Department of Justice, why would they be after you? Let's talk about the track record of the DOJ, which I have talked about. The DOJ, the Southern District of New York, all of them fall under the Department of Justice. Let's talk about their track record, because Eric Adams is innocent until proven guilty. He is saying he is innocent. He is being arraigned now. But here's the thing. They have a 97% conviction rate. Here's our friend over at MSNBC, Chris Hayes, talking about their track record.
Compare that to the Biden DOJ under Attorney General Merrick Garland, a Department of Justice that has bent over backwards to be independent of the White House and partisan political concerns. They appointed a special counsel, a Republican and Trump appointee, to investigate the sitting President Biden's own handling of classified documents. They prosecuted a string of high-profile Democratic officials and family members on a variety of charges.
Today, I'm announcing that my office has obtained a 3-count indictment charging Senator Robert Menendez.
Breaking news, NBC has learned that the Department of Justice is expected to announce an indictment against long-term Democratic Congressman Henry Cuellar of Texas.
Today, we are announcing campaign finance, bribery, and conspiracy charges against Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City.
An extraordinary step by the Justice Department earlier today. Federal prosecutors have indicted President Joe Biden's sole surviving son, Hunter Biden, on 3 criminal counts.
So the Biden DOJ has prosecuted a sitting Democratic senator, a sitting Democratic congressman in the Rio Grande Valley from a swing district that possibly only he could win as a Democrat, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, 40 days out from an election in which there's a whole bunch of swing districts around New York City Democrats are trying to win, and Joe Biden's last surviving son, who is awaiting sentencing on charges that even Trey Gowdy, the far-right former congressman and prosecutor, thinks are pretty ludicrous.
Gun prosecutions for 6 years. But I'll bet you there weren't 10 cases prosecuted nationwide of addicts or unlawful drug users who possess firearms or lied on applications. I bet there weren't a dozen, which makes you wonder, of all the cases you could be pursuing in Delaware, why are you pursuing this one?
It is entirely possible that Joe Biden will leave the presidency and never see his son outside of a prison again. This is the administration the Republicans have politically weaponized the Department of Justice when the opposite is actually true. It's a point that the current U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Damian Williams, made today when he announced the Adams indictment.
The Southern District of New York remains committed to rooting out corruption without fear or favor and without regard to partisan politics. We are not focused on the right or the left. We are focused only on right and wrong.
Now, I want to be clear here. This doesn't mean the Department of Justice always gets it right. The prosecutors always get it right, that the people being prosecuted are guilty.
Right. Pause it right there. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know how much longer is in there, but we'll play it. Chris Hayes is right. That doesn't mean that they always get it right. And it also doesn't mean that all of those people or any of those people are guilty. I mean, Hunter Biden made a plea deal, right? Chris Hayes is right. Joe Biden may never see his son outside of a prison cell. So can you imagine? Let's just be honest, okay? Can you ever imagine the Donald Trump, the MAGA president, that his Justice Department would do the same? Can you imagine that? Do you think that, well, I don't know, maybe Donald Trump would let his kids go to jail if it meant saving his own hide? Probably would. I don't know. But Joe Biden is not pulling any punches. He says if his son did something wrong, then his son will have to face the consequences. This Justice Department, as you heard Mr. Williams there saying, Damian Williams of the Southern District of New York saying, hey, guess what? We're not right, we're not left. But then when you listen to the folks on Fox News like Trey Gowdy, oh, you know, they're not prosecuting this, they're not doing that, they're not doing that. When you listen to the folks on Fox News, you think that the Justice Department in the United States is after Donald Trump, is after MAGA, is all just trying to go after him for all of these things. And then when then they try to rationalize it. Well, they've got to prosecute some Democrats because they're just going after Donald Trump. Is there anything that these MAGA folks won't do to try to protect Donald Trump and pretend they're trying to pretend, unless they just, I don't know. Because Donald Trump represents them. I think in some way they believe that it's them and he's speaking for them and he's become their deity. When you think everyone is out to get you, if I told my therapist, like, you know, everybody's out to get me, he'd be like, okay, Don, let's talk about this. So you've got this going on. So you have a case here, you got a case in this state, you got a case here, you got this other person. And none of this is your fault? You didn't do anything to perhaps bring this on, get yourself in this situation? Did you give them any ammo, so to speak? You didn't do any of this? No, you're not culpable in any way? You have no responsibility in any of this? Everybody's out to get you? You know what he would say? We need to, when we're done with the session today, I'm going to recommend some places that you can go for help. I'm going to recommend some places that you can go for help, because clearly you are a threat to yourself and to the people around you, because you have no concept of what reality is. And you should not be operating and out and about with autonomy with people because you've got a problem and you're putting yourself and other people in jeopardy. That's what my therapist would say to me. So the Department of Justice is not weaponized against Republicans. Let's continue on with Chris Hayes, please.
They might not be. we're going to see in trials. But at the level of the institutional functioning of the Department of Justice, this is how the DOJ is supposed to work.
Okay, that's it. So you may not like it. As Democrats, you may feel that they're after some Democrats. I would suggest that you keep your innocent until proven guilty mentality and just withhold judgment. Now, it is the same thing, similar situation for, I almost said Mayor Cuomo. Don't get mad at me. I almost said Mayor Cuomo, because I think the person who stands the best chance, and Torres too, people really love Torres, who was on this show. People really love him. So I don't know. Now, my mother just texted me as we said that, was the biggest Andrew Cuomo fan. Huge, loved him, loved the press conference, riveted every day. I like him. I think he's great. I wish he was like doing, over everybody in the country. And I said to her, I said, would you vote for Andrew Cuomo? And she says, I'm skeptical about Cuomo. I don't know. She goes, oh, okay, I don't know. I don't know. I'm telling you, a lot of people like him. The Black community still loves him and reveres him. Okay. But this is a report from Politico, which is, if you guys don't know what Politico is, you can imagine it's Politico, and that's what they do, all politics. So the indictment of Mayor Eric Adams is emboldening the former governor, Andrew Cuomo, to jump into a crowded race for New York City mayor. Since last year, Cuomo has been signaling to some insiders that he is disclined, not inclined, to run against Adams, giving their shared base of predominantly moderate Black Democratic voters. Now, here's the reason I think this is strategy, okay? This is all strategy because they have the same constituency. Andrew Cuomo does not want to be looked at and perceived as someone who is pushing out a Black mayor who Black people like and support. And you saw all the Black leaders surrounding him yesterday, Eric Adams. But this has shifted now since Adams has these deepening legal troubles, right? I think he's going to run, says Chris Coffey, who is a former advisor to ex-mayor Michael Bloomberg and Andrew Yang's 2021 mayoral campaign. He was probably going to run no matter what, and a weakened or out of the race, Eric Adams is a better bet for him. Even the polls, people who have polled, and there have been polls done on who stands a better chance, Andrew Cuomo is at the top. Now remember, there are all these allegations, and that's look, it's not for me to say whether they're true or not. These are just the facts. They were never adjudicated in court, right? He was never found guilty of anything he didn't face. To my knowledge, he was never found guilty of anything. So, there are people who say, look, the man never went to court. He never went in front of a judge. These are all allegations. They were never proven. But there were a number of women who were around him, staffers, who say these things happened. Now, I'm going to tell you, you have a constituency of Black folks, they're loyal. And they are loyal, and they know that people can be set up. They know from the history of how Black men are treated in this society, that they don't often have the agency as others, white women or white men. And so they tend to err on the side of caution. Just saying. Cuomo has reached out over the last year to New York business and labor leaders about a run for mayor. His political team has laid the groundwork by trying to give Cuomo an aura of inevitability, positioning that he would be a sure winner in a 90-day nonpartisan special election if Adams were to leave office, though the competition would actually be stiff, and Cuomo has to contend with baggage of his own. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. He'd have to contend with baggage of his own. Cuomo would in part rely on his near universal name identification. He'd also likely benefit from a special election in which independent voters could cast ballots if Adams doesn't serve out his term. though the mayor is vowing to fight the charges and remain in office. Now, as I mentioned, there's opposition among people who worked for him. Liz Smith, who worked for the mayor, put out this statement about Mayor Cuomo's bid. And she says, okay, she says, or hear me out. So this is from a series. She says, Cuomo ramps up mayoral plans after Adams' indictment. And then she says, or hear me out as a former Cuomo person. Maybe we shouldn't go from a scandal-scarred mayor who may have to resign in disgrace to a scandal-scarred governor who did have to resign in disgrace. Now, remember, Liz Smith is a political operative, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way, but that's what she is. She's worked for campaigns. She's actually was Pete Buttigieg's person when he was running for president. Liz Smith, very nice lady. I see her all the time. We live in the same neighborhood in New York. I might probably run into her today at the dog park if she's in New York City. Or I've run into her like going to grab her kids from daycare or something like that. But everyone's not thrilled about the prospects. The former top operative for Cuomo, Liz Smith, reflected on the governor's Me Too scandal and tweeted out this morning, hear me out, as I said, perhaps we shouldn't be, doing this. What's in New York's DNA? What in New York's DNA tells us we need to just settle for extremely flawed options, she says. Extremely flawed options. But I'm telling you, okay, guys, I'm going to go to the comments here because I want to hear you guys out and I want to know what you're saying here. Listen to me. Again, I'm not saying this because I always get, pinged for everything. I can say, this is how society does this and whatever. And oh my God, Don, I can't believe you're saying that. You're whatever this, you're a bigot, you're whatever. Like, no, I'm not saying it. This is a deal. If Eric Adams goes down, Mayor Cuomo, that's what's going to happen. I'm not saying I support him. I'm not saying I don't support him. I'm just saying if you look at what gets people elected, if you look at what's happening now in the political universe, someone who has 34 counts against them, someone who's been found liable, adjudicated in court. Remember, Andrew Cuomo was not adjudicated in court. Someone who's been found liable of sexually assaulting a woman, which is akin to rape. Someone who tried to steal an election. Just look at what's happening with Matt Gaetz. Look at what's happening in, even with North Carolina. This guy is still in the race. Look at what is happening now in the political universe. You know what counts the most out of anything? Name recognition. People have short memories. Americans are not accountable, which means they don't really hold people to account in ways. Everyone talks about cancel culture or whatever, but you can always, if you have name recognition and you have built up some sort of goodwill and you've built up some sort of a brand, I hate that word, then there's always room for you. Because people have short memories and people tend to romanticize the past. There's always, America loves a good comeback story, and then they love to knock you down again. So Andrew Cuomo has the biggest name recognition. You know what also matters in politics? Money. He still has a huge war chest, millions of dollars from his gubernatorial coffers. Still has a lot of money. And he can still say, look, I contend that this didn't happen. I was never found guilty in a court of law. These are all rumors. Now, how that's going to play publicly, I don't know. How much of the women vote he's going to get, I don't know. He's going to get a lot of the black vote. He's going to get a lot of the black vote. And I think in these times that people care more about their pocketbooks, money, the economy, safety, which means crime, and in New York City, homelessness. And Andrew Cuomo was a great administrator. and can be tough on crime. And he wants, look, if you make the trains run on time in New York City, you're in. That's it. If you knock down the crime and you get some of the homeless people off of the streets in New York City, you're in like Flynn forever, regardless of what people may think you did. And remember, there is honestly, I'm just going to be honest again, it's not me. I'm just telling you, there is a backlash to cancel culture. So even if someone has done something that people deem to be wrong, what's in the atmosphere right now is that people say enough is enough. No one is perfect. And again, I'm not advocating for Andrew Cuomo. I'm just telling you what is happening in our society and in our culture. When I go out around and I talk to people, and the people you're going to hear in a little bit on this show, Katty Kay, who was on MSNBC, speaking about Vice President Kamala Harris is having trouble with men. She's having trouble with black men. She's having trouble with white men. She's having trouble with young men. She's having trouble with old men, right? She's having trouble with men. And also she's having some trouble with women. Because a lot of these social issues aren't resonating when you don't have money to pay for things. Now, when you have jobs, like there are jobs, like the job market is pretty good right now. Prices are up and they're coming down, right? So it takes a while for all of these things. So people, when I speak to people across the country, especially black men and these people who say that they're going to vote for Donald Trump, they don't care about the racism part. They don't care about the homophobic or the bigot part. They care about money. Donald Trump is all about money. They care about their livelihoods. What do they say? I like Donald Trump because he gave me a stimulus check. Now, they don't know the background of it, that it wasn't him, that it was Nancy Pelosi, Democratic Congress. We can go on. You can say that until you are blue in the face. His name was on that check. But Joe Biden also gave you one. Joe Biden, I don't know, came from the federal government. All I know, someone says Andrew Yang for mayor, Michael H. And not going to happen. And I love Andrew Yang. I know him very well. Sorry. Not going to happen. If you put up a sign that says Cuomo or Yang, which one do you know? Hey, have you ever heard of, just say Yang? They're going to go, no. And then say, do you recognize this name? Cuomo. Let's just be honest in the chat. If I held up something and I said, okay, here we go. I wish I had my whiteboard here. Thing. Yang on this side. Okay, do you recognize this? Yang, I don't know. Remember, he was the guy that ran for mayor or whatever, or for president, the mayor, and then he was like maybe a contributor on CNN. You don't remember Yang? You remember? Maybe. Do you remember Yang? He was part of No Labels. No. Cuomo. Who do you recognize? Not who you're going to vote for. I'm not saying who you're going to vote for. Who do you recognize? Which name do you recognize? Cuomo. Maya Wiley, who I respect and really like. Maya Wiley. Wiley. Which name do you recognize? Is it Wiley or is it Cuomo? Where's the lie? Rock and Rob says recognize them both. Come on, Rob. Give me a break. You maybe, but nobody knows. I'm telling you this. Yeah, that's Emil Sinclair says Obama, which brings us to that's a very good point. Because all you have to say is what? Obama. Everybody knows who you're talking about. Yang. I don't know who's that. Wiley. Maybe. Yeah, I know. If you're like immersed in New York City politics, or maybe you know that. Torres. Cuomo. Everybody knows that. Now, again, like I said, I'm not advocating. I'm just being, you have to be real. You have to really think about those things. Name recognition matters. Money matters. I'm going to get ahead of myself just a little bit here. Let me just get ahead of myself because I want to play something for you. I was going to wait until the political thing. So let's do this since we're talking about producers. Let's go here. Okay. So we did the Eric Adams walking into court. We did that. So let's go to Caddy K on Harris and young men to prove the point that I'm making. Okay, about what people care about. Check it out. Here it is.
So they still believe they can and will win Pennsylvania, but they feel good about Michigan. They feel good about Wisconsin, relatively good. It may be a landslide. Maybe they'll win by a full percentage point in both of those states. But in Pennsylvania, they know it's going to be a fight, and it's going to be a fight because she's doing better, much better among women and most young voters, but older white men, just like people thought after Biden left the race. More of a challenge, pulling them to vote against Trump again.
Yeah, I mean, older white men and actually younger white men too, also a bit of a challenge. I mean, that number they'll like a lot, up +5 in Pennsylvania, because you're right, it's the new Ohio, it's the new Florida, it's the state where they see they have the most problems. And of course, then either the concern or the upside, depending on how you look at this from the Harris campaign's point of view, is that Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin people think will break the same way. That's what they've done traditionally ever since 1980. I think there's one exception. And so if they lose Pennsylvania, what would that then mean for Wisconsin and Michigan? If they win Wisconsin and Michigan, does that mean they're going to win Pennsylvania? But that's why they're putting so much resources into that. But it's men. I mean, I think the real struggle for the Harris campaign is young men, older men, men of color, white men, and they are doing all they can. You can see, I think the debate next week will be really interesting to see how Tim Walz reaches out to that group. Doug Emhoff, who I interviewed yesterday, I think we've got a clip of that we can have later on the program. He is making a concerted effort in his own way to reach out to that group. They know that's where they know that's where they have a weakness.
Okay, so there you go. And it's all tied together. It really is all tied together. And I know that it's tough. Look, I'm just going to I'll tell you guys a couple of stories, just so you know. When we talk about these polls, and I always talk about people who are undercounted in polls. And I was with someone last night they do analytics for a living, and you guys would know who they are, especially the young people, they would know who they are. And he talked about just looking at analytics over time, and there's these hidden votes for Donald Trump. Now, I don't mean to depress you guys. And I said, I won't say his name. If you had to say right now, who would it be? And he said, it would be Trump, and here's why. Because of what I'm seeing and the analytics that I looked at in 16 and 20, and the analytics that I looked at, and the same people who are online, and because they have when you do these things, look, let me tell you, before I go there, all of these things that you're on, all of these apps, all of these social media accounts, everything, they are collecting your information. And they have what you've tweeted and what you've said, if you've ever taken part in a survey, if you've ever said anything about Trump or Biden or Kamala Harris or whatever, it's all in their analytics. They have it. It's all a record. So the same internet people, handles or whatever that are on now, real people, and they know who's real and they know who's a bot, okay? Who said, I need a change in 2020, I'm voting for Joe Biden, are now online. I think they said like 70 or 80% of them, those same people are saying, I need a change now, and I'm going to vote for Trump. So he said, if you just looking at the analytics, just the pure raw data, I would say that it's going to be Trump, regardless of all the hype. And he said, because of the polling samples, how people do polling, he said it's all BS. They take 400 people and then they, do this and they blah, 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 this. And he goes, it doesn't really mean anything, Don. He said, so be careful about all of that. So I say that to tell you these two stories that I had. So as you know, I go out and I talk to people, and we have these little dinners and sort of meetups where we just discuss things with people. So I was with a group of college people not long ago, young college people. Most of their families are sort of liberal, sort of, whatever. They go to good schools like Syracuse and Duke and Villanova and, even Harvard. I will tell you this, Don. I wouldn't say this to my professor. I wouldn't necessarily say this to anyone at my university, because I'm afraid that it would affect my grades and my scores. That we can't say how we feel politically. That we can't say that we're sick of everybody pushing us so far to the left. Now, again, this is not me. This is what they said. All of the trans stuff, that it's too much. All of the, and they believe even the stuff that's not true about, you can go and have surgery, and they believe all of those things because where are they getting their information from? They're getting their information from social media. This is just 100% true. So that was a couple weeks ago. And they said, I am voting for Trump. They're first-time voters. And most of everyone I know is voting for Donald Trump. These are young people. Some women, young women, mostly young white men. And there are black men who are doing the same thing too. That's what they're saying. Okay? In my conversation last night, this gentleman who does analytics, very successful person by doing this, so knows his stuff. And so I wouldn't be relating the story to you if I didn't think it had some sort of credibility to it. He said, the thing that really changed, it was like life-changing for him. He said his daughter, his one daughter that was 15, and then another one who was 18 and was going to be voting for the first time. And he said he's in their group and he's looking at their sort of Snapchat or their social media, and it's all of these kids they're texting, they're all sharing. They're all on this group thing, and they're all sharing. And they have this thing called Rainbows in the Wild. Again, and these are really liberal people, okay? And their kids have this thing called Rainbows in the Wild, and where if they see a rainbow on someone's sock, if they see a rainbow on someone's, like they could be eating an ice cream or something that's like a rainbow or whatever, an icy, the little rainbow color. Anytime they see anything that has a rainbow, they take a picture and they say, look, rainbows in the wild, rainbows in the wild. And he said, why are you doing that? And he says, well, Dad, don't get mad, don't get mad, don't get mad. Because he said, because we are all at school and we're all trying to figure out what to do. And because everything has become so pronoun-y right now, it's too pronoun-y. And it's too much. So you think that they love, I'm not making the thumbs up. I have to figure out how to correct that thing. It's not that they love the rainbow. They're making fun of the rainbow. They're saying that all of these issues that are tied around all of these social things that people care about, that people, that really don't have that much they believe, to do with what's going on, especially economically, crime-wise, and on in the future of the country. They don't think it does. I'm not saying that it doesn't. And they say too rainbowy. So they're making fun of, it's too pronoun-y, they say. Now, how much of that has to do with where they're getting their information, because it's all headlines? Let me know if you guys have ever heard of Rainbows in the Wild. How much does this have to do with where they're getting their information? I think it has a lot to do with it. I think our environment is more important than pronouns. That's what they're saying. The one man's kids group chat. No, it's not the one man. Listen, LA, New York, LA. Stop trying to make excuses for what I'm saying. This is someone, as I said, I would not be relaying this story to you if I didn't think there was any credibility about someone who does analytics. And so on a broader scale, he studied it. And it is true. The young folks are feeling that way. And it's not just for one person. So he said it was life-changing for him. So he took it to his company and they did some analytics. And as it turns out, the young folks all think it's way too much. So all of this together, what am I saying to you? You can hear about all of these things. It depends on where you get your news. You can be stuck in an echo chamber. You can be stuck getting your news. Listen to me, right? Remember, you guys were really mad at me about Joe Biden, and I said, that's not going to happen. The Democrats don't want him in. Joe Biden or whatever. He's a very decent man or whatever. Can he win? There's some concern that's going to happen. I don't want to hear that, Don. Stop talking bad about Joe Biden. It's not. I'm just giving you the information. So I'm just telling you that there's a hidden vote for young people, a hidden vote for men, black men, or whatever, and on and on. That same sentiment carries over. Truth hurts, Don, says illustrious meme. It does. I'm just telling you guys to be forewarned as you hit the thumbs up. So we have a lot of people in here, and I only see like 708 thumbs up. Come on, y'all, give me a break. I'm saying it as it relates to what people really care about, and if that will carry the day, like women's opposition in Cuomo, yes, that will have some weight on it. But I think overall, in general, people are very forgiving, and they want who they want, and they just want their lives to be better. That's it. So I said, you know, when you're voting for Trump, why? Did you care about a woman's right? Yeah, I care about that, but I care about having money in my pocket more than I care about that. It's like, wow. Because you know my number one issue is women's reproductive rights. That is my number one issue because of the Supreme Court. So don't try to say that I'm, you know, I feel a different way. We want money. We want to be able to make sure that we can afford to, if our family has, you know, some sort of medical issue, on and on and on. I never run across pronoun issues, and I hang out with LGBTQ plus all the time. That is the thing. Thank you, Kristen Thompson. That's the thing. Even LGBTQ people don't over-index on pronouns. Most people don't care. It's a tiny fraction of people. And so we get stuck on, and it's not necessarily that people get stuck on it. It's that also that the other side, that the opposition to those things realize, the political right, the MAGA folks realize that is an issue that they call them wedge issues. That is an issue that can put a wedge between the voters and the electorate, Democratic voters and the electorate, and some independents and people who may want to vote for a Democratic candidate, that they can put a wedge in there to get people to pretend that they care about these issues when they really don't. They really don't matter. And then it just becomes like this big thing that nobody really gives that much of a hoot about. I mean, it doesn't mean that they don't care. It means that it's just further down in their list of things that are important to them in order to be able to survive. So, you know, I can talk all day about how silly it is for Donald Trump to be selling coins and watches, and people are like, that's who he is. We know it's a grift, whatever, but we want money in our pockets. We want gas prices to be down. We want grocery prices to be cheaper. That's what they care about. We're sick of, like, it's too pronoun-y. I'm telling you, careful of that. Be aware of that, because that is the reality. Even though you may not like it, that is a reality that I'm always going to tell you. So in the election, I don't know what that's going to mean. If you look at the polls, we'll put that up, and then remind me, I want to show you how this relates to Cuomo again. There is a new poll that's out right now, and it looks pretty good for the vice president. Polling analysis from Morning Joe. Watch right now. Here it is. No polling analysis from Morning Joe. We don't have it. Morning Joe polling analysis. Okay. Well, there's a full screen. Okay. Thought it was a soundbite, but here we go. So Arizona, just to show you, in Arizona, let me get back to, maybe I want to delay here. Sorry, Nikki. Nikki's like, it's up. Yeah, it was on a delay. Sorry, it was on YouTube. It's delayed a little bit. So Arizona, Harris is now leading +3 in Arizona. Last month it was tied. Georgia, this is Bloomberg Morning Consult. So these are legit polls. Bloomberg does mess around. Morning Consult does mess around either. So Georgia is now tied. Last month, it was Harris +3. See how these things go back and forth, and that's why you shouldn't be so sure. Like, yeah, she's going to win. Georgia, it's up. Ooh, I don't know. Michigan, it's +3 now for Harris. In last month, it was +2, so she's up 1. Nevada, Harris is up 7. Last month, she was up 4. North Carolina, she's up 2. Last month, she was tied. Pennsylvania, she's up 5. Last time, it was +3. Wisconsin, she's up 3. Last time it was +9. So you never know. So basically what that tells you is people are fickle, right? They can change depending on what's in the news, whatever, and at the drop of a hat. And also things are not as concrete, and people are not as wedded to certain issues that you may be wedded to, and that you may not be taking into account. So I say, you never know what's going to happen in the polls come November, what's going to happen when people actually, the real poll is going to the voting booth. And if I had to bet any money on it at this point, because I think Andrew Cuomo is going to have a lot of opposition. People are going to use, everything that happened to him. The opposition research are going to go hard. At the end of the day, he's still Andrew Cuomo, as I said yesterday. And I said, if we had to bet on it, if things turn out, the way that people think that, Eric Adams is going to be in trouble, he'll have to resign or whatever, Mayor Cuomo. That's going to happen. So if I had to bet money on it, that's what it would be. I don't know what you think, but that's what I think. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening in Florida, because that is a huge, huge, huge deal. It's now a Category 2. It was a Category 4, currently centered about 80 or so miles east northeast of Atlanta, and is tracking quickly northward at 30 miles per hour. Maximum sustained winds 60 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Association, or the Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. The Storm Prediction Center has issued a tornado watch for eastern South Carolina into North Carolina and southern Virginia. Numerous flash flood warnings are ongoing in Georgia, and western Carolinas. That includes multiple high-end flash flood emergency warnings in western North Carolina, including in Asheville, and 2 in metro Atlanta. There have already been nearly 200 reports of flooding from northern Florida into western Virginia over the past 48 hours from Helene, and a separate weather system that preceded it. Okay? A little bit more now, because I think we paused it, of Ron DeSantis explaining it, and then I want to show you what's happening to at least one man's home. So a little bit more of Ron DeSantis, not from the beginning. If you can pick it up where we left off, it would be great. No, Ron DeSantis. Okay. Guess we don't have Ron DeSantis. Okay, let me show you. We'll get Ron DeSantis. If we can go, this is one gentleman who has been going live on his social media from his house. And I want to show you what is happening. This is one man. He's filming it, and he's also going live on social media. Check out his house.
But at least I'm not electrocuting myself anymore. We have we got the chlorine going, so try to disinfect some of this nastiness. That's good. Florida things. Florida man doing Florida things. By the way, please visit hornblasters.com. I'm located here in Tampa, Florida. Bro, get out. What are you doing? Yeah, I got the chlorine going, so it's good. We don't take anything serious. We're Florida, man. What am I going to do? I just checked the weather in between my lives, and it looks like at 2 a.m. the water might start going down. But in the meantime, it's going up. The foundation of the house, like all this water is bubbling underneath the foundation. So that's not good. I think that's like how sinkholes happen. The water is smashing up against the window. When I open it, it gets really choppy in here. It's still coming in through the garage. I'm getting annihilated by mosquitoes already. But, go live on TikTok, because oh, damn, my light's out there floating around. Whoopsie. Oh, so if that light is floating around, that means the cactus is done for. Man, all those switches, all my light switches are going to get wet. You can see them right now. I got like the smart light switches, and we're going to have to replace all those. That's a bummer. Oh, well, it's a bummer. My buddy Shane, his house got wiped out too, I heard. So that sucks. By the way, if you like.
Wow. Can you imagine? Poor guy. And so it's like the water is like that high in his home. That's a lot of water in your home. Just a little bit of water can ruin your house, ruin your electricity, ruin your sheetrock or your plaster or whatever it is that's on your walls, your wood, everything. It's got to go. And not to mention all the mold and stuff that comes from that. So we are watching the folks down in Florida and down south to see what happens with now the tornadoes and all of those things. So we're so sorry for what's happening there, but we're going to keep an eye on it. And that guy had a really, really good attitude about it. Okay. So the one thing I wanted to show you something as well. I forgot which relates to the Andrew Cuomo, because I didn't want to over-index on saying, hey, he's going to be the mayor, because there is some opposition. This is a Daily Show, which I think also speaks to a lot about how people can create a situation in their mind, things that aren't necessarily true, but sometimes perception is reality. This is from the Daily Show. Watch this. It's about Eric Adams.
One reason New Yorkers aren't too worried about their mayor being indicted is that we understand the city government is so much more than just one person. The Adams administration is full of civil servants doing their job honorably, like the police commissioner.
Embattled NYPD Commissioner Edward Caban was forced to resign amid a federal investigation into influence peddling involving his twin brother.
Okay, so the police commissioner also had a scandal, but you can always get another police commissioner.
Just days after being appointed, interim NYPD Commissioner Tom Donlan's homes have been raided by the feds.
Okay, police aren't everything. It's the school system that matters.
Schools Chancellor David Banks becomes the latest appointee to announce his departure as he faces scrutiny after FBI agents seized his cell phones.
Oh, not the chancellor. Who will make sure the schools are canceled? Jesus, is there anyone in this administration who isn't under investigation?
Banks is among at least 15 other members of the administration that are currently under investigation. Banks, his two brothers, Phil and Terrence, as well as his fiancee, Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright.
Agents searched the home of Adams' chief fundraiser, Breonna Suggs. New York City Sheriff Anthony Miranda and his office are being investigated over money confiscated from illegal pot shops. Investigators searched the homes of Winnie Greco, the director of Asian Affairs.
A senior aide to Mayor Adams, Tim Pearson. Were there any kind of kickbacks going on?
Business dealings between Frank Carone, the one-time chief of staff to Mayor Adams, and a Monsignor named Jamie Gigantiello.
Oh my God. Fox News was right. Crime really is out of control in New York. But this is actually kind of impressive. Adams has assembled multiple branches of an administration, all committed to a shared vision of breaking the law. I can't even get my coworkers to go apple picking with me.
I mean, it's true. Innocent until proven guilty, but man, that's a lot of folks to be under investigation. Okay, so real quickly, some national politics as well. You know, if we're having a comedic moment here, this is someone who is. It's sarcasm. I'll let you know that. J.D. Vance's strategist speaking in Springfield, Ohio, on the situation there. Here it is.
Clark. I am here as the local representative for the J.D. Vance office. The senator thanks you all for your support, the same support that put him into office. I am personally appalled that a Republican elected in Ohio would say that something that we made up isn't true. Do you know how that makes us look? How it makes the senator look? Lazy, incompetent, cruel.
Hey, please don't make your comments, please.
We need to get in line. We do not win this November without immigration chaos. That is why we torpedoed Senator Langford's bipartisan immigration bill. If people aren't talking about how immigrants are eating all the fish from Finding Nemo, they might actually want to talk about our economic policy, which, can we dim the lights? Thank you.
No.
Thank you. So this is our plan to fight inflation. And the best part about it, it's whatever you want it to be. That's right. Once you start writing stuff down, it gets messy, it gets complicated. And it's hard. It's hard to fight inflation. Like, apparently, putting a tariff on all imported goods and having a national 22% sales tax makes prices go up. Who knew? Wouldn't it be better just to talk about how immigrants are stealing car tires to set them on fire because they want the air to be stinky? Look, we don't want to divide this community. We don't want to bring extra strife to this community or the Haitian community. The senator is open to making up a new conspiracy theory. Can we have the lights back up? Thank you. I'm going to need a country. I heard Guatemala.
Sir, you just direct your comments to me.
Oh, perfect. Verb, please.
Please stop.
Yeah, bird arson. Bird arson. Thank you. Got that.
Sir,
Listen,
are you done? Is
Our
there anything
only
else?
popular position is that being mad at immigrants for trying to use social services that we're trying to get rid of entirely. Our entire real platform is just about getting rid of overtime pay, labor unions, getting rid of the minimum wage, building submarines, invading Mexico. We wrote this down. This is part of our platform. But hey, no taxes on tips. Am I right? And if you don't support us, the Guatemalans are going to come for your birds, and they're going to set them on fire. I will now open the floor to questions.
Walter Madison, please sit down.
So obviously he was being sarcastic and funny, but I mean, where's the lie? It's true. So the truth is often spoken in jest. That is the theme there. It should be the theme for the day. But it's also just to be careful about what you think and just about how you feel on issues, because I want you to be aware, right? I do believe that that's the strategy, is to demonize immigrants. And I do believe that what is real in politics now, which is playing out in New York and playing out nationally, is that no matter how much people talk about social issues or whatever, people really care about the things that sort of hit them in their wallets. And that overrules everything. As we have, Benjamin Netanyahu speaking at the UN, people are concerned about that because a lot of money is going to where? To Israel. A lot of money is going to Ukraine for wars. People are concerned, and they're tuned into that. We're also going to have to help the folks out a lot down south because, right, it's going to be declared a national emergency, a state of emergency, and then the emergency funds will have to go there. So people are concerned about those things and concerned about taking care of their families. That overrules every single thing. I'm always going to be honest with you. So don't think just because you feel a certain way about certain issues that issue is going to weigh out. People care about money. And you know what? The Trump folks know. That's why they keep talking about prices, economy. Now, the vice president is leaning into that. She did the interview with Stephanie Ruhle, who is, I think, like the chief financial contributor on NBC, and also the anchor of the 11th hour on MSNBC. So that's why they did that with her. She's also going to go to the border, right? So all the things that Republicans think are her weakness, she's going to lean into them, and she's going to try to talk about them. So border, right? I forgot to tell you, the young folks that I interviewed also care about the border. Interesting. So what do you guys think of everything I said? You don't like my music? True. I'm not sure what that means, Kristen. You don't like my music. But anyways, yeah, that's right, Don, says Deborah Vett. I know it's right. I know that people hate to hear it. The priority today is helping people down south. Maureen Marfell says, yes, we have to help people down south. The federal government will do that. Zachary Walker says, love you, Don. Thank you. Blessed weekend, Don and family and all the LemoNations. Thank you, Mango Lime. We still have a live at 5. By the way, live at 5, just so you know, okay, you guys can join us early. You can get into the chats. I would love that. Make sure you hit the thumbs up before you leave here, though. So you guys can do that. Live at 5 is going to be at 6 Eastern, okay? So 5 Central. We have a very, very, very special guest for you. We're going to talk about, there's a new documentary. We'll talk about everything that's happening in the world. But there's a new documentary from the folks over at TMZ, which is, wow. If you haven't seen it, you're missing it. It's on Diddy. Harvey Levin, Charles Labutier, I always get his name wrong. You know Harvey and Charles from TMZ. They actually produced the doc. They went inside. They spoke to his attorney. They spoke to people who are close to Diddy. And I mean, it's crazy. And then we're going to talk about, of course, the upcoming vice presidential debate. but our guests on Live at 5 are fantastic, and you are not going to want to miss this show. Live at 5 today. So hit the thumbs up. Make sure you share our page and our link to our page with everyone. Tell them to subscribe. We're trying to get to 250. Our challenge, 250,000 subscribers. You think we can do that? I mean, if we just do it, if we go all out, we can do it by Sunday, but I'd like to do it by next week. Okay? So we're at 246. We want to get to 250. How quickly, LemoNation, can you guys do that? That's my challenge. Let's see how much love you have for the LemoNation and the Don Lemon Show, and for me. And don't forget, you got to get my book. You got to read it. It's in my bag. I don't want to unzip. And it's doing very well on the charts. And that's it. So I'll see you at 5. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you like and subscribe. And let us know what you want us to talk about at 5. But remember, Charles and Harvey Levin from TMZ on their explosive, groundbreaking documentary on Diddy that just released. I believe it was released last night. They're going to take us inside of all of that. Okay, inside the story about Diddy. 300,000. I want to get to 300,000, says Angela Porter. Yes, Angela, you tell them. Okay, I'll see you live at 5 o'clock. Bye, everybody.